Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're talking about The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. The final book is coming out, I want to say, November. If you are familiar with my channel at all, you know that I want so desperately to love this series because I have major FOMO, feeling of missing out about it. I have yet to like a single book in this series. There was the first trilogy, which is the Caraval trilogy, and then there is this sequel trilogy, Once Upon a Broken Heart, which features some of the characters from the original trilogy. I have not actually finished the original trilogy. I have one book left. That video is coming once I read the book, but I have read this book. Oh boy. The final book, when it comes out, I will read and review it. It's called A Curse for True Love. I don't have very high hopes. I was hoping that this book would do a little better. I didn't like it. I had all of the typical craft issues that I have with most of Stephanie Garber's books, but this one, and this is saying something, this is the one with the least amount of plot. But this is also a book that had a couple of elements that I actually liked in it, but we didn't do anything of substance with them. So were they executed well? No, but they did exist. But craft-wise, I think this is her worst written book on like a verbiage level and a character development level. I already don't like that Stephanie Garber's books are written in a way where lore is introduced after the first book and it is lore that is necessary for the overarching plot, what little there is there, of the trilogy. So it very much feels like we are not doing anything in continuity. We are just sort of like flying by the seat of our pants, which doesn't make for a very rich reading experience for me. The way that lore gets introduced and then changes the character dynamics so drastically, it ends up feeling like I'm reading a completely different series from book to book and not in a good way. Yet every book still always feels like a wild goose chase. It feels like, in fact, that she uses the same formula every single time. Naive girl enters new place. She's not familiar with it all and has to learn a lot about it. Fails uphill while a sarcastic guy who's probably betraying her at least once watches and laughs but then also flirts with her, showing up every 5 minutes. And the romance is allegedly cultivated by the girl getting a boo-boo and the guy having to take care of her sort of reluctantly, but don't worry, he's still being sarcastic while doing it so that we can try to call this enemies to lovers, I guess. It's just laced with utter stupidity. Speaking of utter stupidity, there is a character mentioned in this named Vengeance Slaughterwood. Vengeance Slaughterwood. Worse than that, though, is, again, the prose. I really don't like the prose. I'm going to talk about flowery language in a minute. I'm going to talk about the colorful language, the synesthesia, because I got a comment, which I lost. Can't find it anywhere. I got a comment asking, like, maybe you just don't like synesthesia, is that it? And that's not it. I will address that in a little bit. It's that this is just not good writing, in my opinion. The way that Stephanie Garber writes is not good. There are lines in this book that were, I'll just read them to you. The chill felt like sparkles against her skin, giving her relief. Sparkles. Like the warm water in Breath of the Wild that gives you hearts back, but it says it was a chill. What do you mean? Sparkles against your skin? I don't understand that. I put glitter on my face, I don't feel it unless it gets in my eye. It's not relieving. I don't understand what's being conveyed here. His face had all the agony of a fallen star. What? His cheek tasted wrong like unhappy endings. Like, yeah, an unhappy ending is sad, but I don't understand how that tastes like something. And at one point it said she'd been infected with vampire blood, and she had been infected with stupidity, which, like, yes, I absolutely agree that Evangeline is stupid, but I feel like the stupidity has been going on for longer than she has been dealing with vampire blood. I think the stupidity started on page 1 of the last book. That's really my problem with Evangeline as a character, is the plot hinges entirely on her being completely and utterly aloof. Not just naive, but really and utterly stupid and unaware of everything at all times, and it's not fun. Even people who liked Caraval did not like this book, I noticed. Even people who liked the book before this did not like this book. Personally, I think that they are all pretty poorly done, though I think that this takes the cake. I do not see any of the things that other people are seeing in this book. I really wish I did. I want to see through the lens of other people. I really want to enjoy this series. I have the biggest FOMO. I'm just not seeing it. What I am seeing are things that are far away thanks to my new glasses. I can see all the way into my neighbor's house like I'm living out the plot of Rear Window. I have worked with GlassesUSA.com before. I highly recommend them. If you don't know, GlassesUSA.com is the biggest online eyewear retailer in the United States. GlassesUSA.com makes getting your eyewear easier by cutting out the middleman. They offer over 10,000 prescription glasses and sunglasses, including their in-house brands like Muse and Amelia E. Obviously, I'm a fan of the Amelia E brand, but they also have designer brands like Ray-Ban and Oakley and Gucci and many more at up to 70% off of retail prices. I have these that make me look very much like a 1950s librarian, which I love. They're not just cute, they're also helping me with work because GlassesUSA.com offers a collection of blue light blocking lenses, which are ideal for protecting your eyes whether you're at home or at work or outside. Using blue light lenses during screen time helps cut down on eye strain, which is great for me because I'm always at home, I'm always working on the computer. So I'm trying to avoid eye strain, I'm trying to avoid migraines, which speaking of which, I cannot recommend these sunglasses enough. They are not only so cute, they are very dark, which really helps me out in the sun. I have to be very careful in the sun. Not only do I have to wear like super high SPF sunscreen because of my rosacea, I really have to protect my eyes because I'm very sunlight sensitive and I will get migraines. These are great and they are my prescription so I can see very far away while I'm driving, which is great. Before getting these, I had a hard time reading street signs and now I'm able to see while I drive and be safe, which is, you know, great for everybody. I'm also able to take my kids to the park or the splash pad and able to like sit and then watch them as they run around the park and not be, you know, worried about needing to like follow them around all the time, which is great because Florida's sun is rough this summer. And we all know that online shopping can be fun depending on what you're shopping for, but eyelash shopping online can be difficult if you're like me and you're very picky, and especially because there's so many options and you might want to pick more than one style of frame, which I like to change my frame style. Sometimes I want to look like 1950s librarian and sometimes I want to match my blue to my shirt. Shopping for any glasses at GlassesUSA.com is very simple as they offer excellent tools to help you find a pair that's just right for you. In particular, the AR virtual try-on is really helpful for me. I used it to find all my frames and I'm so happy with what I picked out. Everything that I've gotten from them I love, and I cycle through my different pairs because I love every one of them equally. I like to have options. Shopping at GlassesUSA.com is a risk-free experience with free shipping and returns and a money-back guarantee within 14 days. So click the link in the description below to snag yourself your perfect pair of eyeglasses or contacts or sunglasses from GlassesUSA.com, and thank you to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. All right, let's get into this, telling you what I saw occur in this book. Okay, so at the end of the last book, Once Upon a Broken Heart, Evangeline had just learned that her husband, do you remember I told you about the guy who like for some reason was super oily when he kissed her, and I don't really understand what the fuck was happening, and then he fell into a coma like immediately upon like kissing her, and then he stayed in a coma. Well, at the end of the book, she found out that her husband Apollo is not dead, he's alive, and she was like framed for his murder essentially, and she somehow did a bunch of mental gymnastics at the end of that book, making herself believe that Jax was to blame for everything, even though she stopped hearing from him like a while. Like they had like a mind connection, and then he stopped answering her, and she for some reason sees that her husband is in a coma and she's like, oh, Jax is to blame. And I was like, how the fuck did we get here? She did a bunch of mental gymnastics convincing herself that Jax is to blame for everything, and in a way she's right, but how we got there is what I'm confused about. So she's feeling betrayed by Jax even though he has yet to she has yet to like have it confirmed that he is to blame for everything that's happened with Apollo. She doesn't have any like hard evidence, she just sort of like word saladed her way into making herself believe that he is. It was very odd. There was no reason to do it that way. So she writes a letter to herself in the beginning of the book and is like, do not trust Jax. He's the worst. What will I do? I will wake up my husband Apollo, who I have been married to for all of 5 seconds and barely know, because for some reason I'm feeling some sort of sense of loyalty to him. How will I do this? Who knows, considering that I have no skills, no brain cells, and despite knowing that literally everybody betrays me and lies to me all the fucking time, I'll trust them anyway and then act shocked when I get betrayed again. So stupid. We get conflicting info about what's beyond the Valerie Arch, which is an arch that was created by the Valor family, which we heard about in the last book, but it wasn't really super relevant other than we know that Jax wants Evangeline to open it. I don't think having conflicting info about this Valerie Arch really serves any purpose at all. Garber just likes to confuse her readers because she wants to go for like the aura of mystery. So instead of like creating a mystery that's good, she just, instead of like cultivating a mystery, she just confuses everybody by retconning back and forth, right? So then Jax shows up and promises to lift the curse on Apollo, who's in a coma, her husband, if Evangeline opens the Valerie Arch for him. And Evangeline's like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to help Jax. I just said that I would not trust Jax. I don't want to talk to him, but I really want to help my husband, who I barely know, even though I've clearly got feelings for Jax. And it's just like so funny that he just shows up and she's like, ew, here he is sauntering in, eating his apples. And like, stop with the damn apples. Stop it. I've had enough. Make me an apple pie or shut the fuck up. So then she figures out that her and Apollo have some sort of like mirror curse going on because when she gets a wound, he gets the same wound on his body. And at some point in the beginning, there's this whack-ass scene where she goes to the library where the Valerie Arch is behind it, is Valerie Arches, sort of. But inside of the library, there's no books. There's just like crumbling shit. And a librarian shows up and he's like, hey, do you remember me? And Evangeline's like, yes, I do, which is weird because I don't remember this guy at all. So that's definitely a testament to how good this writing is. And he tells her about the stones that she will need in order to open the Valerie Arch. There's 4 stones. And then he disappears into like a cloud of smoke while saying, oh bother, like fucking Winnie the Pooh. Oh, remember her sister, the witch? Her sister was a witch. And what was her sister? Her stepsister barely shows up in this except for like being referenced as being a witch, which I don't remember her being a witch in the last book, but I remember her like doing some magic, but I don't remember her being called a witch. Again, continuity where? And then she also gets mentioned because the guy that they were sort of fighting over, Luke, who got turned into a vampire, is now pretending to be like a long lost royal, heir to the throne, and running court. This is completely irrelevant to the story, but I like that trope, so I kind of wish that it was plot relevant. Anyway, the only time that Marisol gets referenced is there's a dinner with Luke, the fake heir, ex-boyfriend of both of them, and Marisol, the witch sister, gets invited to dinner with Luke, and Evangeline's like, he's a vampire! But stories about vampires, I guess, make vampires more compelling, which makes people flock to them more. So then there's more vampires. I don't know. I'm just really confused why there's vampires in this at all, to be honest with you. Jax is a fate, so is Chaos, the vampire, and so is Lala, the always crying, never really a bride, the crying bride, the bride whose husbands always die? I don't know. She goes to see Lala, that lady. She's like, I need advice. I'm gonna go see my friend. And I'm like, since when are you and Lala friends? What the fuck? Am I hallucinating? And like early into the story, she says, perhaps the Prince of Hearts was not the only supernatural force she needed to be worried of. Bro, you don't think that Lala, also a fate, somehow your friend after 2 seconds, is included in the supernatural forces that you may need to be wary of? You don't think that? How? I guess at some point between the last book and now that I didn't see on page, they became friends. Okay, whatever. Don't worry, this gets retconned too, and Lala ends up betraying Evangeline, being responsible for some shit that happened to her. And of course, Lala tells Evangeline, against Evangeline's own advice to herself, you should work with Jax. That's not suspicious. And Lala's like, by the way, I'm engaged to Lord Robin Slaughterwood. Yes, there is a relationship to the previously mentioned Vengeance Slaughterwood. So Evangeline goes back to the palace, and Apollo, her husband, is awake. But even though his coma curse is over, he has a new curse. He's cursed to want to kill Evangeline. Well, his body wants to kill her, but his head doesn't want to. So he's like, I don't want to kill you, but my body is making me. It was hilarious. I know it wasn't intended to be funny, but it was. It was definitely funny. So he tries to attack her, and she, runs away. Jack shows up with his apples again, yada yada. And we're just gonna repeat the same shit we've done with Jax for the last 2 books I've read with him in them. So Evangeline's like, fine, Jax, I'll help you, you stupid, super handsome man who's eating an apple. I'll help you open the arch. First we have to get the stones, and there's 4 stones. Luck, mirth, youth, and truth. And it says stones smaller than her palm. So I don't know why we didn't just say pebbles, but alright. Jax takes Evangeline to the vampire castle yet again, which once again, why are there vampires in this? I could not tell you. While there, just like in all these books, they're constantly like flirting, but he's mean, and she's like, why are you so mean? And they flirt some more, and it's stupid. And for some reason, she's like unwilling to deal with her feelings, and she's like, oh, but I'm married to Apollo, who I've known for 5 seconds and is trying to kill me. So Evangeline goes to the library to read up on the Merrywood Three, which is like these families: Castor, Valor, Lyric Merrywood, and the Archer. They were friends who were part of these houses, these great houses. And then Castor Valor, the family, you know, the Valerie Arch family, Castor Valor was murdered. So the Valor family created a monster to slaughter the Slaughterwood family in revenge. And Evangeline, having all of the same amount of brain cells as a fucking pet rock, is like, gee, I betcha that Jax is part of the Merrywood Three. Now, if we're looking at what the Merrywood Three constitutes, he probably is not Castor Valor, considering Castor Valor is in fact dead. He probably is not a Slaughterwood, because, I mean, why would he like want to open the Valerie Arch if the Valor family made it and they tried to have revenge on the Slaughterwoods? Robin Slaughterwood is also obviously a Slaughterwood, and like, wouldn't they know each other if they were related? So that leaves one more Evangeline, the Archer. But Evangeline just cannot get there on her own because she is stupid. Evangeline's like, oh, chaos. The Fate vampire has one of the 4 stones. Evangeline has to kill a girl to get it, which that whole thing was ridiculous. So she gets one of the stones. Hooray! So Jax and Evangeline go to Lala's wedding. She's marrying Robin Slaughterwood, which again, that last name is just ridiculous. Really, this is just an excuse so that we can have like a dress up time in these books, because there's always pretty dresses, which I don't hate like off, you know, just as a rule. But these books, it annoys me that we are doing more describing of pretty dresses than we are writing of plot. And Jax and Evangeline is like, the stones, they will come together at this event since all the great houses will be there. And I'm like, all the great houses, eh? So, the Archer? Evangeline does in fact get 2 more stones, but Evangeline snoops and eavesdrops on Lala and Jax, and she finds out that Lala was the one to curse Apollo both times. I thought y'all were friends for 5 seconds. It's at this point where I'm like, bitch, why do you bother ever trusting anyone? You are clearly so stupid. You literally started this book by writing a letter to yourself saying, do not trust Jax. What did you do? You went to somebody else who's untrustworthy who told you to trust Jax. Come on. After your own sister fucked you over royally, literally. In the last book, are you perhaps short of all of your marbles? So Evangeline realizes that her back is bleeding, right? And she thinks that someone is either attacking or torturing Paulo, and that the mirror curse is causing her to have the injuries. And she's like, you know, in a bad way. So Jax takes Evangeline to this like foresty place that is sort of a wonky pocket universe of time called the Hollow in order to heal her. And Jax leaves her there for a few days, but then he comes back and now he has a stab wound, so now he has a boo-boo that she has to take care of. Really just doing the formula once again. And Jax is like, I'm hurt. Stay with me just for the night, Evangeline. She keeps having dreams about this handsome stranger who ends up being one of the Merrywood Three. I can't remember. I don't know. It was all contrived nonsense. She has the Truth Stone, remember? So she has some of the stones that she needs in order to open the Valerie Arch. And she uses the Truth Stone to make Jax tell her why he needs the arch open. And he says he doesn't want it to be open, which is taking back what he said previously in the last 1.5 books. So, yay! He says, I just want the power from the stones. So, why didn't we do this sooner? Why didn't we just have a conversation about the stones sooner? Evangeline didn't even know about the stones. She was worried about opening the arch. If he wanted her to help him just get the stones, why didn't he just tell her that sooner? She was like, oh, I'm really worried about opening the arch. That seems like a bad thing to do, and all these people are against it. If he were interested in just using the stones for a certain power, why didn't he just say that and mislead her and be like, I just wanted the stones open. Oh, it's got nothing to do with the Valerie Arch, but no. We didn't do that. We did this wild goose chase for the last 1.5 books about the fucking Valerie Arch, and that's not even what he wants. Why? money. They head back to the vampire castle. Jax finally tells her, I just want the stones because they can send somebody back in time if all the stones are together. And then the stones' power will be like moot. It can only happen once and then they won't work anymore. It's at this point where I'm asking why about literally everything. Not just why can it only work one time, but why did he feel the need to keep this a secret from her at all? What did that achieve other than to string Evangeline on and by proxy string the reader along, where we are questioning his motivation for no other reason than to make an aura of mystery. And he's like, I want to go back in time to before I met Donatella, so it'll erase him ever knowing Evangeline. She's like, no, I don't want to forget you. And he reveals to her that he is the Archer. So not only is he Jax, the almost heir to the throne of whatever, because he's killed a bunch of people, and not only is he the Fate, known as the Prince of Hearts, and not only was he 8 different people to Donatella, her handsome stranger, her pen pal, the heir, but he's also the Archer. His resume, so stacked. Okay, this is ridiculous. We'll just make Jax 8,000 different people in order to just fist whatever we can into the story. Okay, they go to Wolf Hall. I shit you not. There's a wolf's head. It's hilarious. They go to the Valerie Arch, which is at Wolf Hall. It's Evangeline and Chaos, and Jax gets left behind. So Evangeline, who can open locked doors, uses the stones and her magic-y magic to open the Valerie Arch. Chaos, the vampire fate guy, enters the arch. He's not the only person who's who's several different people, by the way. She's like, I'm gonna fix Jax's curse because he's cursed to kill everybody that he loves. So I'm gonna go in this Valerie Arch and I'm gonna fix it somehow. Chaos and her go inside, and inside is the Valor family, who are all asleep. They've been locked behind their own arch thing, and they wake up and they're like, oh my god, it's Caster Valor, to Chaos. And Caster's like, yeah, and then attacks Evangeline and kills her. And at that point I was thinking, finally. Jax shows up and he's like, no, Evangeline, but she's already dead. And then he takes the stones like he wanted and uses them to go back in time. And in the new branch of the timeline, Jax goes to Evangeline before she enters the Valerie Arch and says, don't go in there. Chaos will kill you. So Evangeline leaves and Apollo shows up, her husband, who's been trying to kill her. Somehow everything with them is fine now. And Evangeline is confused. Evangeline has lost her memories somehow. Apollo's like, it's fine. I'm your husband. We're good. I'll take care of you. And the end. So that was a time. This is not slow burn romance. There's nothing romantic about Jax and Evangeline. Evangeline is not naive. She's just stupid and childlike in her lack of understanding and awareness of any situation she enters. Never is a romance actually cultivated between them. Jax is just an asshole who eats apples. That's it. I don't even really know him. I don't understand his motivations. His desire changes with the tides and also with Stephanie's inconsistent writing. At one point, Evangeline says of him that he thinks that her feelings were like the emotional equivalent of a sneeze, something to be avoided. Why would you want to be with somebody like that? This is a nonsense wild goose chase with the worst characters who I don't even understand fully, and what I do understand of them, I really do not like. There really was no reason for so much of this to occur. There wasn't a reason that the stones did not get brought up in book 1. There really was no reason to not answer the question of what is Jack's motivation? What is he really after? Way sooner. There was no reason that he needed to be 18 different people over the course of 3 books so far. Keeping your reader in the dark is not always a bad idea. It can lend to a sense of mystery, but this author has yet to do it in a way that I think has any good payoff or is consistent or even makes sense. It doesn't have a payoff at all, at all. I'm just sitting here wondering how Evangeline can end this book saying she loves Jax. If we are supposed to experience him through her and have an understanding of him through her, I don't understand what she loves about him because she barely knows him. I barely know him. And what she does know, she found out 5 seconds ago before he ended up being responsible for her losing her memories because he wanted to go back in time to before he met another girl. I also don't really understand him wanting to go back in time to, before Donatella, like, sure, you kissed Donatella and she didn't die, so maybe she was your one true love. Or maybe you should spend your time researching ways to break your curse, or I don't know, something that makes more sense than this, surely. I feel like he has it pretty decent where he's at in life, despite not being able to like kiss women. I mean, like, is that it? Like, you just want your one true love? Is that really it? Because like, you don't seem to show any sign that that's something that you're like really concerned about. Why does he want that? Character motivation is pretty important, and the fact that I've now read 3 books with this guy and don't know his motivation makes it clear that the writing is not great. You don't have to like a character, but you do have to understand them and care on some level about what happens to them, be that good or bad. And him just sauntering around, being sarcastic and eating apples for 3 books is not a substitute for character development. I don't know why we have vampires. I can't stress that enough. I do not know what the point is. I don't know why we run around having the same conversation between Jax and Evangeline 25 different times in different scenes. The conflict in this doesn't really make sense because the characters don't make sense. You don't have to solve the conflict in book 1 of a trilogy, sure, but I should have most of the context I need to understand it by the end of book 1, and I don't have that context. I didn't have that context in this book, and I still feel at the end of it that I don't have that context, and the last book is the last book. The next book is the last one. Like, what is she gonna throw in next that didn't come up in the last, 5 books happening in the same world? Who knows? Could be anything relevant. To address the synesthesia thing, it's not that I don't like synesthesia writing. I think that that's cool, and in a way, I can relate to, like, there are some things that we all assign color to. We were talking about this in my Discord where we were talking about the folders that we use at school, and all of us had a different color assignment in our head to different subjects. So for me, math is red, science is green, history, English is blue. Like, I can understand that, and like, I don't know why math is red, it just is to me. I don't know why English is blue, it just is to me. But in writing, what you're trying to do is convey an experience to another person, right? So if you're going to say, he tasted like night and wind, okay, night where? What kind of night? You have to expand upon that, because night to you might be different than night to me. So whatever you're trying to convey to me, you're gonna have to simply elaborate. You need to throw in some more senses. Night, is that hot? Is that cold? Why? Throw in some extra senses. What does it smell like? Why are you relating it to night? So all you have to do is expand upon it by using the other senses and some like cultural touchstones, right? So if I say that something smells like Christmas, we have a cultural baseline for what that means. Peppermint, cinnamon, pine trees, right? Those are cultural touchstones for like what Christmas smells like. If you are making up your own world, then I don't know what cultural touchstones you want me to rely upon when you say things like he tasted like night and wind. You have to expand upon it. It's not that I hate it as a rule, it's that whatever you're trying to have me experience, I'm not experiencing it because you're not expanding upon it using my senses. You're not engaging the reader and helping the reader have the actual experience that you want them to have. And so I feel like when a writer writes like that, I'm on the outside looking in, and I'm trying to like get in and see what the experience is that they want me to have, but there's a barricade, there's a wall in between me and them because they are not letting me in by engaging my senses. So that's why I don't like the way that Stephanie Garber writes, because it feels like half a description. It feels like she slightly opened the door, it's still locked. I can't get in because you have not engaged the rest of the senses. You have not done the rest of the work in order to explain to me what you want me to experience in fiction. So if you want me to like your description, do all of it. Don't just say pretty words like he tasted like night and wind. I don't know what that means. You've got to engage my senses. God, how many times did I just say the words engage my senses? Anywhoosie, that's it. That's why I don't like the way that Stephanie Garber writes, because I feel like her descriptions are just her doing half of the work that she needs to do. I feel like if she really wants to engage her readers, then she has to actually do the work to explain why those pretty words are relative to what's inside the book. I don't know what tasting like midnight is. Like midnight in Iceland is different than tasting like midnight in Florida. You've got to give me more than that, otherwise I'm just confused. That's it. That was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie. No, it wasn't. That was Ballad of Never After by what? Jesus! Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. The next book is A Curse for True Love, and I will read it. Okay. Reviews are for readers. This shirt can be found linked below. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hello, it's me, Trash Can Rachel, and I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Allie Magpie, Amanda, Bubble Tea, Cami, Chris, Claire, DJ Rocktopus, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron, Eric, Faror, Harley, Jack and Jill, John E, Kelly No K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex, Alice, Peggy Lou, Rain, Reese, Samar, Scarlett, Shiny, and SMK. Thank you all so much for being a friend. And before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are Alicia, AM Angel, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley, Ava, BB, Beck, Blythe, Bookish Rainrot, Ray, Bree, Brian, Caitlin, Carlin, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Corey, Darren, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorothea, Ebby, Elise, Ember, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Hannah C, Hannah T, Harpy Kuro, Haley, Hello There Darling, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jen with 2 N's, Jen Michelle, Jennifer Tanner, Jenny G, Jillian, Just Pugsley, Haley, Kat, Katie, Katya, Kayala, Kendra, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura, Lauren B, Library of Scars, Lisa, Lou Siri, Luna Moth, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Marcella, Marquita, Maz, Malara, MK Books, Molly, James, Nat, Natalie, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, 9 Binary, Paige E, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pixel Stars, Pure Raytheon, Rachel B, Rat Sarah, Reba, Rebecca, Ren, Robin, Rosie, Rowan, Other Rowan, Sequoia, Sadie, Samantha, Sarah C, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shaymed, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sheena K, Sean, Sophie, Stephanie, Talia, 3 Old Dogs, Tiana, Tina, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Tino Felix, Valentine, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.